How are you? Good, how are you?
You're an amazing player. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You're changing the history in basketball.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming here and playing us. Most people you've played in front of.
Yeah.
After a recent preseason game, Brazil's coach told Caitlin Clark, "You're changing the history of basketball." That powerful compliment didn't come from a WNBA executive or even a teammate. It came from an opposing coach whose team still travels on commercial flights. While some in the WNBA have been slow to fully recognize Clark's impact, others clearly see it. Brazilian players lined up for her autograph, and one game alone brought in $9.75 million in ticket sales. Clark isn't just a rising star, she's helping reshape the financial future of the WNBA, much like other game-changing athletes have done in their own sports.
The real story was how this Brazilian national team that played the Fever, it's the way they received her.
That moment turned the idea of respect in women's basketball on its head. While some WNBA stars have been distant or dismissive toward Clark, a coach from the other side of the world showed what true recognition of a game-changing talent looks like.
Celebrated her. It's quite a contrast that these women of color from Brazil and their coach had, as opposed to the American players.
The Brazilian coach didn't hold back. She walked straight up to Caitlin Clark and said, "You are changing the history of basketball." This wasn't just a polite compliment. It was a clear, heartfelt acknowledgement of how much Clark has already reshaped the game in just a few months, something many WNBA veterans still seem unwilling to admit. And her influence goes way beyond just putting up points. Take a look at this.
How are you? Good, how are you?
You're an amazing player. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You're changing the history in basketball.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming here and playing us. Most people you've played in front of.
Yeah.
So what made that moment after the game stand out? Brazilian players, professional athletes themselves, lined up to get Caitlin Clark's autograph. They put pride aside to show genuine respect for her talent. In contrast, you won't catch Angel Reese doing the same. At recent games, some WNBA veterans have gone as far as turning their backs when Clark walks in, even skipping the usual pregame handshakes that are a basic part of basketball sportsmanship.
You're changing the history of basketball. You're an amazing player. What you're doing is phenomenal.
The Brazilian team's reaction felt genuine and welcoming. They saw Clark's impact as something positive for the game as a whole. Meanwhile, the cold shoulder she's getting from some in the WNBA feels defensive and short-sighted. Pushing back against change like this doesn't stop progress. It only holds the lead back.
Caitlin was signing their jerseys after the game. It seemed to be a great experience for that team.
So why the huge difference in how she's treated? The Brazilian team doesn't have the perks that WNBA players now enjoy. They fly coach, stay in basic hotels, and work with tight budgets. Still, they chose to show respect and admiration, not jealousy. Meanwhile, in the WNBA, players are now flying private, staying in upgraded hotels, and seeing their paychecks grow, all thanks to Caitlin Clark. TV ratings are soaring because of her. The league is getting more attention, more money, and more fans. Yet despite all that, some players still seem to resent her presence. The contrast couldn't be clearer.
Why is he celebrating her more enthusiastically than the overwhelming majority of coaches, players in the WNBA?
International players, who have nothing to gain from Caitlin Clark's rise, are the ones showing the most genuine respect. Meanwhile, many WNBA players, who are directly benefiting from the improvements her presence has brought, refuse to acknowledge her impact. That says a lot about the current culture within the league.
The Brazilian team isn't flying private to games around Brazil or anywhere thanks to Caitlin Clark.
Brazil's response shows that recognizing a rising star isn't just good sportsmanship. It's smart business. When someone is packing arenas and bringing in millions, it makes far more sense to celebrate them than to push them away.
while losing 20, 30, 40 million dollars a year because of Caitlin Clark, they're flying private. They're being treated as stars and celebrities.
What's especially telling is that Brazil's team, made up mostly of women of color, responded to Caitlin Clark with nothing but respect. There was no resentment, no sense of being threatened, just a clear recognition of talent. Their reaction cuts through the noise of race-based narratives and reminds us that this is about merit. Clark is lifting the entire sport, and that deserves appreciation.
They're all riding Caitlin's coattails.
What if I told you this isn't a new story? We've seen almost this exact situation before. Same setup, same dynamics, just in a different sport. The only difference, the outcome couldn't have been more different.
This before, we saw it with Tiger Woods when he hit the PGA Tour. And it wasn't that the PGA Tour was losing money.
When Tiger Woods burst onto the golf scene in the late 90s, he didn't just win tournaments, he changed the entire PGA Tour almost overnight. Suddenly, people who had never watched golf were glued to their TVs every weekend, just to see what he'd do next. Sound familiar? That's exactly what's happening with Caitlin Clark right now.
Everybody in the PGA Tour fell in line and was like, man, look what Tiger has done for us. Look at all this new money and attention that's coming to the game of golf.
Tiger Woods' impact was immediate and undeniable. During his prime, the total prize money on the PGA Tour skyrocketed from around $67 million to more than $400 million. An increase of 6 times, opening up countless new opportunities. Every golfer on tour saw their earning potential grow simply because Tiger Woods was in the game. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Tiger's competitors, the very players he was dominating week after week, responded in a way that couldn't be more different from what we're seeing in the WNBA today. They didn't shy away from his success, they celebrated it. They publicly recognized how much he was doing for golf's popularity and openly thanked him for bringing in more viewers, more sponsors, and more money to the sport.
Woods. And so they competed against Tiger, but they all respected Tiger.
Golfers like Phil Mickelson, Ernie Els, and Vijay Singh, men who were often finishing second to Tiger, understood something fundamental that seems to be lost on many WNBA players today. When one player lifts the entire sport, everyone benefits. More viewers bring in more sponsors. More sponsors bring in more money. And more money means better conditions for everyone involved.
They weren't trying to tear Tiger down. They weren't running around saying, I'm the real reason, or these white men aren't being celebrated enough. They're only interested in Tiger Woods.
This mindset created something special in golf. Tiger Woods was respected as a fierce competitor and appreciated as the sport's biggest draw. His fellow players recognized that his stardom was good for everyone. They could admire his greatness while still competing hard against him. Now, look at the WNBA. The league is having its own Tiger moment with Caitlin Clark, bringing in more attention, viewership, and revenue than ever before. But instead of embracing this opportunity, many within the league seem determined to push back against their biggest star. They downplay her impact, question her abilities, and foster an atmosphere of resentment instead of celebration.
No, the men in the PGA Tour was like, this dude's making it rain money over here. I'm making more money. We're all making more money. We're all bigger stars than we ever have been.
This approach could be disastrous for the future of the league. The WNBA has spent decades fighting for mainstream attention, better salaries, and improved conditions. Now they have a player who's bringing all of that, and yet many are pushing her away instead of embracing her. Imagine if golf had rejected Tiger Woods instead of welcoming him. The sport would have missed out on billions in revenue and stayed a niche interest. That's the risk the WNBA faces if it doesn't learn from golf's example.
No one bent the knee and just kissed the guy's butt. There's a way to handle when a superstar shows up, takes your business, your industry to a new level.
Now let's focus on what happened when Caitlin Clark stepped onto the court against Brazil. Her performance showed exactly why she deserves the same level of respect and recognition as Tiger Woods.
Championship team. This is a team who makes every game a home game. We talked about the t-shirt that they are currently selling on the Indiana Fever's team store, but let's talk about the attendance for this game. So there were 14,998 people in attendance for this game.
This isn't an exaggeration. This is exactly what happened when Caitlin Clark hit the court against Brazil. The Carver Hawkeye Arena was packed to the brim with 14,998 fans. Not one empty seat. Every single person in that building showed up for one reason: to see the Caitlin Clark show return to her alma mater.
And the average reported ticket price was $650. Now, if you do the math here and you do 15,000 people times $650, that is almost $9.75 million just for a WNBA preseason game.
The economic impact was massive. The average ticket price for this exhibition game was $650. Multiply that by nearly 15,000 seats, and you're looking at around $9.75 million in revenue from a single preseason matchup. This far surpasses the typical economics of the WNBA, where regular season tickets are usually priced much lower. When generational talents like Caitlin Clark play, they create a unique level of anticipation and demand, completely shifting the market dynamics.
This team is going to break so many records this year. I know we've talked about it. Attendance, viewership, merch sales, all of the things. The fan base that rides behind this Indiana Fever team, even the game that I was at that Caitlin Clark didn't play, the attendance was recorded at 12,461. Even with it being a preseason game that Caitlin didn't play in, there is so much motion behind this team, and I think the more that the Indiana Fever wins, the greater that they are this season. That bandwagon of fans is just going to continue growing.
Let's talk about her performance, because Caitlin Clark gave the fans exactly what they paid for. She dominated, scoring 16 points, hitting 6 of 10 from the field, and knocking down 4 of 6 from three-point range. And then there was that jaw-dropping 36-footer, launched from well beyond the logo. Brazilian players were left in awe, standing there, stunned by what they were witnessing.
Before Caitlin Clark was about to come out of the game and be done for the night, she hits her signature logo 3 from 36 feet. Yes, I said it, 36 feet. She was actually behind her signature logo that was on the court. It was a really cool moment, and even when I was on live, I actually had to rewind it because I was like, wait, did I just see what I thought I just saw? And she shot it from beyond that logo, hit it, then she turns and she points to Ryan Ruocco, who has the "you bet" call that he does for all of her three-pointers.
The Indiana Fever starters looked outstanding together. Dana Bonner, Natasha Howard, Alia Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Caitlin Clark played like they'd been teammates for years, not just weeks. The Fever shot an impressive 45.5% from beyond the arc against Brazil, with Mitchell hitting 4 threes and Clark matching her. The team's chemistry was undeniable, and that should make every WNBA team nervous about facing them next season.
DB can shoot threes, Natasha Howard can shoot threes, Alia Boston can shoot threes, Kelsey Mitchell can shoot threes, and I believe at one point in the game, their three-point shooting percentage, let me look, oh yeah, so they ended up shooting 45.5% from 3 during this game against the Brazilian national team. Like, this team has some great shooters. Kelsey Mitchell had 4 threes, Caitlin Clark had 4 threes, Sophie had 1 3, Sydney had 1 3, Lexi Hall was 3 for 3 from threes, Bree Hall had a